we have a guest in the studio. She is the Member of Parliament for Kiambu County. That's what they like to call themselves now. Member of Kiambu County. Constitutionally, woman representative for Kiambu County, and Muratha. Good morning.
Morning.
Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation.
Asante.
You know, when we saw that you've confirmed that you'd be coming, we said, you know, this is Muratha. CT, you've got to get an appropriate proverb that Muratha can then help us to.
And when I read the proverb, you'll understand why
you taking such vehemence.
I know, Muratha, it's your first time in Parliament.
Yes.
And how's it so far?
Well, it's a completely different challenge altogether in life.
From what you were doing before?
From what I was doing.
What were you doing before?
Number one, I used to work for a media house.
Yes.
Professionally, I'm a psychological counselor. So I used to be a family counselor with a vernacular radio station.
Yeah.
And a TV station. And a number of times I spoke Kikuyu. So when I go now to a place where I have to speak English or Swahili, then that becomes my number one challenge. I always see people ask, when I'm on an English station, I always see Kenyans ask, this lady speaks English, because people are used to seeing me talk Kikuyu. Yeah. And something told them that I can never speak English. So that's one challenge where I have to adjust that I'm now not doing Kikuyu. I have to do English or Swahili. The other thing is that I never thought Parliament is very busy. That you're very busy with committees. I thought it's you know, in Kenya we used to quick fixing things and moving.
Yeah.
So when I have to be sat down, I'm not one person who really can sit for long. So when I have to go to a committee meeting and you have to sit a whole day, and especially now when our education system is on crisis, and I'm in the education system, and we have an education committee, and we have to sit for 4, 5, 6 hours trying to deliberate on issues. It also became a challenge. But again, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it, doing it in my other years of life. It's enjoyable.
You're enjoying the challenge.
I'm enjoying the challenge.
Yeah.
Yes.
So many times when you used to speak outside the radio station and the TV station, and you speak into the community, you talk about marriage and family.
Yes, and I really campaigned on I rose, actually, even in my campaigns, I rose on the boy-child campaign. I'm campaigning on restoring the dignity of the boy-child. Yeah, so then I talked on marriage. I'm also a campaigner of families.
Yes.
So I've had very many challenges and issues with young mothers, young ladies. They're always on my case, but at some point we agree.
You reach a level of compromise.
Yes.
Okay. CT always gives us a proverb. Every week, proverbs come from a different country. This week's proverbs are from the country of Lesotho.
Yes, it's written Lesotho, but I'm informed it's pronounced Lesotho. It's a very interesting country. It is a country whose lowest point is 1,400 feet above sea level. Meaning, essentially, it's a country on the mountaintops.
They live in the clouds.
And then, uniquely, it is a country that is bang in the middle of another country. It's landlocked in ways that redefine landlocking. So now let me landlock the proverb.
Okay.
And when you hear it, you'll understand why this man was misinforming you. It's a simple proverb which only has 6 words. 2 wives, 2 pots of poison.
2 wives, 2 pots of poison.
Yes.
I think it's also the same in Kikuyu.
Okay.
Nenyogo yorogi.
And Warogi have come into this thing.
And there are also 6 words.
Akere nenyogo yorogi. Two wives is equals 2 pots of poison.
Yes. Same WhatsApp group.
What does that mean? What's the interpretation of it?
Of course, interpreting it from the layman's language and from what we see every other day. When a man is dealing with 2 wives or 2 women, women will always have real or imagined war. So either way, they'll be fighting because they will either be real or imagined war. And not only wives, but when a man has interest, when women have an interest in, two women have an interest in a man, they will always have that war. So that's why there's even war between a mother-in-law and a daughter-in-law. Two wives, two girlfriends with an interest in one man. So the battles and the wars around there, maybe I'm imagining this is what they call the poison.
What do you think the lesson is? What is it that the ancestors, the Kikuyu and the Lesotho ancestors wanted to tell the people? Is it avoid two wives or understand them or what?
I think it was just an insight of if you get two, then you should be prepared for what. Just know.
Be ready.
Just know what you are asking for.
If you rattle a snake, be prepared to be bitten by it. Okay. Thank you. Mheshimiwa, you, like you've said, you're a member of the Education Committee in the National Assembly.
Yes.
Now, we were even having a conversation yesterday because the story, a big story in the Standard, was a report that had been prepared by the Teachers Service Commission and presented to Parliament on the progress of JSS. Now, JSS in primary schools, the government has hired some 30,000 teachers specifically for JSS. Many of them are interns, 21,000 of them, and then the others are permanent. But still, those are not enough for the 40,000 odd schools that we have across the country. And then the TSC then asked the primary school teachers who qualify to teach in JSS, that is those with the diploma and above, to apply. So then they can be posted into JSS. But there was no conversation about apply and then you shall get something extra, this and the other. So teachers are not applying. And the TSC was saying, now we're having a challenge because the teachers that would be asking to apply for these particular positions are not applying. 60,000 of them who are qualified to apply for positions in JSS are not applying. All this basically to say that the children who are in grade 7 in JSS have had a challenge with the transition into JSS. Has your committee heard about this?
We have heard a lot about it. And possibly what I would begin by saying is that whenever we're going through a transition, I don't know, in Africa or even in Kenya to be specific, we have a problem of transiting from one place to the other. I happen to have been in the first class of 844 in 1985. And young as I could have been, I can still tell that the mess that was there is still the same that is here. We never learn. We still continue doing the same things the same way. And I remember there was a crisis of classes. There was a crisis of the subjects we were doing. Our class have been the first 844 class. Those of you that were around, remember, I don't know, we were building some huts. I think they were trying to come up with something like CBC or something. We built some huts.
Arts and craft.
Arts and craft. We were cooking. And then the classes that followed us never went through the same. I think we were the experimenting class. Then you also remember in 2002 when President Kibaki came into power. Then again he talked of everyone now going to school, where we had even the old people going to school, and the transition also was another problem because it's like we are never prepared. So the problem we're having with this system is that it's a good system. Actually, it is good. But it appears like there was no good, proper preparation of how we're going to transit from 844. So we are having a big challenge. Number one, we have the issues of infrastructure. We do not have enough classes for the same. We also have a problem of teachers are also saying they've not been trained on how now to handle this system and whatever is happening. And as you have said, we are employing 30,000 teachers. And again, this other time we're going to do in this financial year, we're going to do 20,000 more. So we're going to do about 50,000. But still they are not enough. There's a big shortage of teachers. And from my own assessment, I've also realized that we have not very many men want to become teachers. I don't know why we are losing men in the education sector. So it's like we have 1,001 problems to be fixed in the system. But one thing that is giving us hope is that it's been fixed in the past amidst all those crises. So we still are feeling we'll make it and we will succeed.
If we look at some of the things that have been dogging the sector, let's just look at 2023. And if we say that now we are going towards the third term, in another 2 weeks we'll be on holiday for 2 weeks and then we go back to school. But we're still dealing with certain things. We're still dealing with a backlog of capitation that was supposed to have been sent. The last batch of capitation that was sent was actually covering end of third term 2022 and part of first term. Some more money came, took care of second term a little bit, but there's still a backlog. So I can understand when we say that there are several implementation problems when it comes to the new curriculum. But then there are still several historical problems that never seem to be sorted out. So before we even come and add issues on top of issues, what is difficult in making sure that schools receive the money they need to operate just as they are, without adding a new curriculum, without even going into books and all these other things for CBC? What has been the difficulty in making sure that, from what you understand, and also from the ministry point of view, Treasury, to get money to schools so they can operate?
Just as I have said that anytime we're going through a transition in this country, it's like we are never sure of where we're going. It's like it just gets us unawares. It's like now it's like we weren't very sure we are going to this system and this is what is going to happen. And as we talk, and I think we are also a very political country. A better part of our life is around politics, to a point that when you watch news and there is nothing political about news, then there is no news. We're used to, and so our politics is what is spread around almost every sector in the country, such that even now when you talk about such things, and I try explaining, like I'd give an example. A while ago, we went to Mombasa and we had a retreat on the same, and we talked about the facilitating the students, or rather the what do we call it? The help that is given to the university students. Yes. And we talked about it, and maybe this is something we'll talk later. But when we talked about it and we realized that the help has been given as a blanket to every student in the university, then we realized some of these students that are given the help don't even need it, but they have to take it because it's supposed to be given to everybody. But when I get home and I switch on the TV, the first news I find is that, now the government has scrapped up the help and they have decided they will not be giving help to any student. And I'm like, where was that one said? Because I was in the meeting. I never heard that. I heard that we're giving scholarships and such like things. So what I'm saying, a number of our things sometimes are affected by the politics that we play in this country, to a point that even like now, when we're talking about the budget, and we have when we came in with the Kenya Kwanza administration, there's the issue where the president says we're not going to borrow on all these things. We're going to wait until we get our own money to be able to do all this. So you realize when you talk to any sector now, they will tell you we're still waiting to get money. We still are not sure. And then before you get to the real story and what it is, then there is a lot of politics around it. And you are there wanting to ask, so where are we? But one thing I can assure Kenyans as I sit on this platform is that I have a son who is 25 years, and he called me in the morning when I was coming and he told me, Mom, I saw you going to Spice. And I said, yes. He told me, Mom, the guys who interview there are very intelligent. So be careful of the things you're going to tell them because they're very intelligent. You have to make sure you speak what you know. And I say, what makes you think I would not be able to deal with them? He says, Mom, out of all the morning breakfast shows in this country, that's the biggest show. So please just just get to be sure of what you're going to do. And I was like, whatever the boy means, but he was like, he's just moved out of home, and he told me, Mom, be very careful of what you want to go and tell these people. So
well,
as I speak out, and here I am. So maybe what I want to say is that one thing that I know is happening is that we have been told that Kenya Kwanza is giving a lot of promises of what is going to happen. But I can assure you and look at you people in the eyes and say, I know we're going someplace. The reason, and to answer on what you've asked me on why there has been all these delays, it is because of those issues of we do not have money at the moment. Maybe we have to wait for some time. Let's wait until we have enough money to be able to give on the capitation. And the teachers are really getting very frustrated. That one I can tell you, because we also go to schools, and you find them very frustrated because they have to keep running. Like the other day I went to the special schools in Thika, and they are feeling like theirs is even worse because they also expect for the special children. Yeah. But I can as much say that in as much as the money has not been given, we are looking at a point where we are telling ourselves and telling the Kenya Kwanza administration that these things have now to be done differently, because from where we are now and from where the country is going, if such delays continue going on, then we'll be in a more worse situation than we are in
we've been before.
Today.
Let's talk about, for example, the case in Kiambu. I'm sure you have visited very many schools and school communities in your county.
Yes.
Have you heard parents raising concern about what their children are doing, the grade 7s, what they're doing, the kind of quality of education that they're getting? Have you had concerns from teachers who are telling you, I'm a primary school teacher and I can see my kids who are in grade 6 and I transition them to grade 7 and I can see what they're going through? Are you hearing concerns from the ground?
Yes, this is all over, because like now when they were transiting from class 6 now to go to class 7, there was all this issue of the change of uniform. And looking at the situation in the country, there were schools that were feeling this is not the right time. We may not be able to do that at the moment. But the schools that really insisted there has to be a difference between the class that has moved from class 6, the class has gone to the grade 7. And parents are still feeling like there's too much pressure, because also in the system, you realize those people that have children now going to the same system. Fortunately, I don't have one, but from the parents who have children going to the same system, it's like you're learning together. And it's like parents don't want that. Life is so stressful for them to
go back to school.
To go back to school and now start reasoning with children. But it's like the system is telling you it is now going to be the three of us, the teacher, the pupil, and the parent. And the parents are feeling, no, this is not our area. We do not want to go this direction. And parents are feeling this one needs to be done in school. Just do it in school. Just give us some peace. So there's that one crisis of involving the parents in the curriculum. There's also the crisis of free education being said. But again, when they go to school, there are issues of remedial, there are issues of we do not have this. Parents have to give something to build an extra class. Parents have to give this to build an extra dormitory. They have to give this to build an extra dining hall, because also I can tell you that the like every year we're getting schools swelling up with numbers of students, and it tells us of how much unpreparedness sometimes we get ourselves into. So parents have to keep coughing money because there is the CDF, there is the county money, but you realize we still are not doing enough.
Not enough.
Yes, and the parents have to keep giving some money for remedial, money for extra classes, money for extra dormitories, and we actually are when I look at our country sometimes and want to define it in one state, in one word, I say we are a very annoyed country. People are just very annoyed.
We're angry.
Yes, and everybody feels they want a space where they can say something. So it's the same in the education system, because it's like even us who are in the education committee, we are still looking at so many things that have to be fixed now. If they are not fixed now, then we are doomed. And we have to sit for many hours to make sure that we fix these things now, or they may never be fixed in future.
The Honorable Anne Muratha is the Member of Parliament for Kiambu County, commonly referred to as, or officially known as, the woman rep for Kiambu. There are also people who say women rep. Okay, it's the woman rep for
It's just one.
for Kiambu County. The Honorable Anne Muratha speaking English on the situation room. City.
And the problem with these breaks is I've now forgotten what I want to ask. Anyway, I was listening to what you were saying earlier on about the 844 system. I was a teacher in the 844 system. I started teaching before the 844 system began, and everything you said about it is actually true. The fundamental difference with the CBC was that the teachers were there. The system and what the system required, the syllabus and all, the books were also there. Some proactive districts, because the districts then had even bothered and made sure that teachers' houses existed. But implementing the curriculum as it was stated was challenging, especially if you were teaching in a town school. Like the school I was teaching in was a girls' school called Star of the Sea, and they had no compound to farm anything. So it became a bit tricky with some of these things you're saying, like building a hut and what have you. But of significance, I was telling my colleagues yesterday, was I taught the English language. When I looked at the book that we received, the textbook, the content with the previous book was exactly the same. The only thing they did was they changed chapters. Chapter 8 was now chapter 2. Chapter 2 was now chapter 5. They simply moved the chapters around, but the content was exactly the same. Now, you look at the CBC, in the absence of the involvement of, well, the great need for parents to be involved, everything around it, it doesn't matter how you look at it, is difficult. Junior secondary. Is it within the compound of a primary school, or is it going to go to the secondary school? And one gets the impression that the debate has nothing to do with education. It's more political than anything else. Because in all honesty, if you're going to a secondary school, the curriculum will change. There are certain things you will do in that school or in that space that you didn't do in the primary school. Now, if you leave that particular, the lower primary, I mean the lower secondary,
Junior secondary.
Ndio hiyo lower nilikuwa nasema hiyo. Junior. In the primary school, let's say for instance you need a lab. How many primary schools have labs?
Zero.
Yes. So what are you going to do? If you're fortunate enough to have a school that is next to a secondary school, you could say they will go to that lab. Now, how are you going to timetable this so that those who actually need, because by the way, the lab in the school has already been timetabled completely. So how are you going to fit in this?
We have had that challenge because the primary schools that are next to high schools are sharing the laboratories, and as you say, it's becoming a big challenge because the secondary schools are feeling they're being pushed too far, and they also have their own programs. Then we are on the issue of building laboratories now in the primary schools where they've now agreed that the grade 7 is going to be domiciled within the primary schools. So we talk of the CDF putting up laboratories. But you see now, we are already there. These are things we ought to have talked earlier.
Yep.
We are already in the grade 7, and we are now asking ourselves, so where is the dormitory? So, I mean, where is the lab? And the classes have already started. This is when we are asking ourselves, so where is the lab? So we're still in a big crisis. And one reason why in the 2023-2024 budget, education has been given the highest. of about 682 billion.
Billion.
It's been given the highest because of all these things that have to be put in place. Because if we do not fix this system now, it might never be fixed.
Mheshimiwa, what would have happened if the junior secondary school was taken to a secondary school? What would have happened?
It could have been worse. I thought it could have been worse.
Why?
Because the other day we went to Limuru Girls. There was the president had gone there and they were celebrating the centenary, 100 years, and the president had taken a bus there, and he told the principal told him, when we asked for this bus in 2018, we had 1,200 girls. So as you bring the bus today, we have 2,500 girls.
Where?
So it is double what, and that's only in the span of 4 years.
Yeah.
The school is now double. So you can imagine a high school that has 2,400, close to 500 girls, and then now you take these other grade 7 to the same. Now you can start imagining how the high schools would have been now, what they would be now, and still the messes around it. And as we have said, and I said this from the beginning, the problem we're having in this country is we do a lot of politics on almost everything. There's always something political that goes around everything. There will be everything that, even when you talk of church issues in Kenya, there will be politics around. You talk of Shakaora, there will be some politics around. You talk of anything in Kenya, there has to be some politics around it. So we love politicking in Kenya more than the preparedness. So this is why I'm telling you, even me being in the education system, I can look at you in the eyes and tell you that we are in a very serious crisis. But the confidence that I'm giving Kenyans is that it just have to be fixed, and we have to fix it, because if not now, it might never be fixed.
You know, Mheshimiwa, go ahead, please.
Sorry, Mheshimiwa, even as you say that, I agree that it has to be fixed because the future of generations rests on the ability to sort something out at this point. But even when we say, and we're giving Kenyans confidence that something will be done about it, there has to be some sign. Like, if somebody was standing outside and the sun was blazing hot, and you come and tell them it is going to rain, well, somebody would hope that there would be a dark cloud somewhere to indicate that rain was going to fall. In this case, it just seems that there's a mess upon a mess. And the things that we've discussed in the last 40 minutes are just infrastructure. We've not even started to look at the software of the education sector. We have already been told that we are going into STEM when we get into year 9 and 10 and 12. We've been told that the curriculum then will do a belly flop and change yet again. Meanwhile, the teachers are saying they're not going to teach. Now, that's the software of this thing. The infrastructure will pain us before we even get... We are talking about JSS to be domiciled in primary schools, not grade 7. No. JSS, that is year 7, year 8, year 9. This is the first class, and it is already looking like this. The second class joins in January. Because they are finishing now. These 7s will go to 8, the 6s will go to 7. There has to be some sign of this confidence that we are trying to tell Kenyans that everything is going to be all right. And what is that sign? What is it? Are we saying that there is a plan that we can actually read and say, okay, we know that there is a mess, but this is what we are going to do come September, 3 months to the end of the year. This is what we're going to do in October. How are we going to solve the problem of teachers not wanting to teach in JSS? What is going to happen? Are we going to hire more? Are we going to make the 21,000 teachers who've been hired as interns permanent? I mean, there's got to be some sign, and unfortunately, we see nothing.
You see nothing because things are just at the very bottom and beginning. Because now, when you're talking of infrastructure, it is now that we have just passed the budget. We still have an issue of the issue, the matters pending in court of the finance bill and the other things. But again, we are saying, and what we have agreed is that number one, for infrastructure, you have now to keep running now. And all I know, the constituency MPs who have the CDF are now onto the issues of building labs, and everybody is feeling we have to have a laboratory. Like now, as we in our kitty, we always have very little money, but I have had the schools and even constituency members of parliament asking, could you be having something small
in your gaff,
in gaff, to just help us get another lab in a certain. Because everybody is feeling we have to have these labs now.
Yeah.
So as people as members of parliament are running now in this financial year, everybody is feeling with the CDF that they have gotten, the first thing everyone is looking at in their constituency is having a lab, because that is what the teachers are crying about. Where do we get a lab? The teachers are also crying, oh, where do we get classes? We do not have enough classes, such that even when you tell teachers we're going to build just one class in your school, it's like a hooray for them, just one class. So the issue here that needs to first be fixed is the issue of infrastructure, because the rest, as we have just talked, those of us that were the first year of 844, somehow I think out of our ignorance,
somehow
we survived.
It's like somehow we survived, because those of you that were around and can remember how 844, this is the confidence I'm giving myself, how 844 started. It's like they weren't sure where we were going.
You know what we needed in those days? We needed a workshop. A workshop was just a room.
Yes.
Called it Karakana. We just needed that. And then when you have woodwork, you needed the saws to come in and
the plane.
And those were supplied by the Ministry of Education. At some level, they were supplied. But like CT is saying, we had the teachers. The same teachers who were teaching the previous system were the same ones who were teaching us.
Yes.
844 as we were beginning. So we could, when we were taught about home science and how to start knitting and how to start washing and making, sewing bonnets and how to knit a sweater on the ground and not hang it on when we were being taught those things, there were teachers.
Yes.
Problem now, Muratha, is are there teachers?
There are teachers, because since independence, I don't think you've ever had a government employing 50,000 teachers in 1 year. It has never happened in this country. So looking at the crisis that we have, and you're bringing in 50,000 teachers, we've already done 30.
Yes.
We're just about to do 20. It tells you that we are on top of the game. And
Maybe there's something we're missing.
What if I told you that the government usually doesn't employ new teachers, they replace teachers who have retired? And that there has been a backlog, and for the longest time, I speak as somebody who was a chairman of a board of management of a school in my rural home, and this was always a problem. Even when a teacher is transferred, replacing that teacher was always a problem. The government hasn't been actually employing new teachers for the longest time. Not new as in to add on top of the ones who are already there. Mostly they replace. That is the reason why we've had this huge number of people who've finished training, they've got their papers, but we keep being told
Unemployed.
they're unemployed. But there's something that is at the back of my mind is bothering me. You take junior high, is that what it's called?
Yes.
To primary schools. Now, secondary schools have a group that is exiting at the end of every year. Now, we don't have any Form 1s anymore. We have junior high. I would have assumed that when the people who are in Form 4 leave, they create a space. I would have assumed. In primary school, that ascendancy from one class to the other is still ongoing. Okay? Now, I'm talking about space, just space, nothing more. If you have an institution where space is created because some people have left, as they move up, there's a gap. Since there are no Form 1s, this junior high are the ones who could have gone to Form 1. But on the other hand, there really isn't space. In this sense, if you are in standard 6 and you move to 7, all the people who are behind you are moving to fill that space. There is no space like there is in the secondary school. My thinking. So I'm thinking, in the secondary school, that is where you ought to have taken, because this cry for building dormitory, building labs, we already have schools that have labs.
Yes.
Just a little upgrade would assist. We now want to start from scratch to build labs. It is a good thing for primary schools to have labs, nothing wrong with it. But while all this is going on, we are hiring teachers who haven't been hired yet, but the students who need the teaching exist. And we are keep asking ourselves, how exactly are they learning? Because first 9 weeks went. We're on to the second lot of 9 weeks, isn't it?
Yes. Just about to finish.
How are they learning?
Is there learning taking
Is there
place?
learning happening?
Yes.
Because even from what I'm hearing, the concern that's coming even from the constituency members of parliament is not on whether the children are learning, it's whether the children have labs. That's why MPs seem to be focusing on building labs in these schools. Does this mean that there's actually learning that's happening in grade 7?
Learning
And
is
who is
happening.
teaching in grade 7?
The teachers are teaching,
Which teachers?
but they are still saying they aren't very sure of whatever they are supposed to teach.
So who is teaching grade 7?
The teachers, the same primary school teachers.
So the
that were there.
primary school teachers
Yes.
are the ones who are still handling grade 7.
Yes.
The primary school teacher who had a number of, how many subjects are there in primary?
12.
12.
In JSS, there are 12.
Yes.
And they are different. So these ones are the same ones who are teaching.
Yes. They are the same ones.
But they are not supposed to be the ones who are teaching.
That is what they are complaining about. That's why they are saying they are crying for this crisis, that they need more teachers to come and handle this system. And as you have asked about the infrastructure, I don't know, but I'll still go back to, I said I was in the first class of 844.
Yes.
And I remember when we were in class 7, there was no Form 1. So we went to class 8, there was no Form 1. So when we went to Form 1, there was no Form 2.
Yep.
When we went to Form 2, there was no Form 3. When we went to Form 3, there was no Form 4.
Yes.
So when we went to Form 4, there was no Form 5. So in 1989, we did Form 4 and Form 6. And we got into another crisis of university entry for double entries for the Form 6 and
Form
class-
4s.
and-
Yes.
and I think that is where we messed the education system of this country. That's where our problems began. I always say we became the problem of this country. That's where our systems of education, that's where our universities, you remember those years, those of you that were there, when somebody was going to the university, it was something big in the
Prestige
community.
of the village.
But our year messed this education system of this country. That was when we had a double intake to the university of the Form 4 and the Form 6. Because we didn't have a class. But again, you need to understand, because you're saying you are a teacher then, there were never empty classes in schools.
No.
Just because there was no Form 1, there is no single day we had that class is empty or that other class is empty because we didn't have a Form 2 when we were in Form 1. There were always students in all those classes.
It is true, because that system allowed for that. Now, you see, we have a system here. We are phasing out a system.
Yes.
All right? And by phasing it out, you see that upward movement you described very well. Form 4s leave. Form 3s go to Form 4.
Twos go to 3.
Yes.
Ones go to 2.
Exactly.
There's nobody joining.
There's nobody.
one.
That's the point. There's nobody joining. Now, that is where now junior secondary school comes in, because there's nobody joining Form 1. We phased out Form 1. See, that is the logic I'm using. And I'm thinking, the schools that had Form 5 and 6 suddenly had space. Because once the last Form 6 class finished, the Form 5s would go to Form 6, space created. When that Form 5 exited, there were now 2 spaces. But when it comes to teaching, every teacher who is in a school right now has a full timetable.
Yes.
You bring in a new class that needs to be taught. The strain is immeasurable. You actually have to ask how exactly they're balancing it out, because the way you timetable teaching, everybody has lessons. So if you bring in a whole new class, essentially you are asking me to fill in with the hours I have, the work that I would be doing in equal measure for both these classes. It is an extremely tall order. Extremely.
But when we came into, when the Kenya Kwanza system came into power, there was a feeling and a strong feeling, and there are people who still feel it even now, that this system needed to be scrapped, and we go back to 844, which was already in existence. But when we sit in the education committee, and people start looking at it, and we were thinking, then again we've gone too far to start looking
going
back.
back.
Because there are people who are feeling it needs to be scrapped, especially some teachers who are feeling there was no enough preparation for this and it had not been done. But again, when we looked into how far they had gone into the new system, then it was like we are saying we've gone too far now to start looking back again and scrap the whole thing.
Actually, we can still scrap it. You know why?
You feel the same?
Yeah, we can, because if we had gone into a second and third year of it, then what you're saying would be absolutely true. You see, with the 844, we also complained
Yes.
that we didn't have enough time to even pilot it. Not only were there talks, people who were chosen from schools, especially if you're an examiner or a team leader, as I was then, you are part of a working group that was supposed to pilot the 844. There was talk of piloting it. It ended up with that talk. The next thing we knew, we were being told it's being implemented. And we're thinking, hoi, now. But, as I said, so you went to and you're given new books. But when you looked at the syllabus in the books, there was really nothing that different. If you're teaching a subject like, say, the English language. This particular system is an overhaul. If you look at it theoretically, and you look at the 844, theoretically, the 844 system was an excellent system. Excellent.
In the way it was originally designed.
Yes.
For
Theoretically.
what it was supposed to be.
The what was implemented, something completely different. And that, I feel, is what is going to happen to the CBC.
But you see, the 844, what the problem the problem with 844 was, or what the people who researched on why we had to change the system were feeling, is that 844 is based on exams and I don't know what they call mean grade, that you become useless because you do not know the year Vasco da Gama came to Kenya. And the CBC is saying, you may not know the year Vasco da Gama came to Africa, but you have something
extra.
There's something extra about you. What I'm saying is, when President Kibaki came to power in 2002, there was this crisis where everybody wanted to go to school, and he decided everybody had to go to school. Now, we also are in a very bad crisis. And I remember listening to this one education, it's called Eda Gashukia, and she said, I am liking the mess, because the mess is going to give some people who would have never gotten an opportunity to go to school to get there. And this is when we get Maruge, that old man who went to school from Eldred.
Yes.
And a number of other people. And her, the educationists say, it is amidst this crisis that we will get some brains that we may never have gotten in this country. So what I'm saying is, with the CBC, when you look at it in the papers, if it will be implemented, and I hope it will be, and I'm saying, being in the Kenya Kwanza system, I want to be sure, and in the education system, that we have to do what it will take to make it work. If it works, then I am thinking this will be a good system, where by the fact that somebody ruled you out, that because you could not do 17 times 17. You never knew who the second vice president of Kenya was.
Well, Shimi, I agree with what you're saying, but unfortunately, I agree with what you're saying, that here you have the chance to see that many would go to school and become, great. But however, the system has to be in a position of support across board, because unfortunately, opportunity with the proper planning sends chance to the grave. And here we are saying that there's so many layers of things happening or not happening at the same time. And until and unless we are able to see a plan that is followed through, we're just going to be rumbling somehow and hope that people end up at the shore with their shirts still on.
Let me tell you one thing that we are working on as the Kenya Kwanza system, and the issues that we are facing in this country and in our education committee and in the system that we are working with. I can assure you of one thing. The fact that at the time we have come at a time when we are in a big crisis as a country, and people are watching us to see. You give so many promises. Let's see where you are headed. And all of us are very keen in looking at. You see now, the Kenyans that we have today are not those Kenyans the Wanjiko we have today is not the Wanjiko you told stories and went away and he forgot. The Wanjiko we have today is watching us and it's like, okay, 1 year is gone. Let's see what happens. So one thing I need to assure you people is that we are also very keen on what we are doing.
Making sure that
so that we know the questions that will come. You are to fix this mess. You are to fix this system. You told us you will fix this country. And this is where you're seeing, like every now member of parliament, like now we were on recess. Every member of parliament had to run to their constituencies. Because we know the battles now are very stiff.
Yep.
And everybody is looking at the faults that we will make. And I can assure you, 2027, the marking list of what we have done will be big. Like a show like this, I am sure you will be taking every
already.
Morning. And we are 1 year down the line. What have you done? So us in the education system are looking like a day like today. From here, we'll be having a meeting with the interior CS. Because we are looking at all ways now to still curb the exam cheating. And we are dealing with all these people so that we are telling Kenyans, you told us you're fixing this country. Are we going to hear again of exam cheating in this year? Because Kenyans will ask you, so what have you fixed?
What did you do?
So on this show, I just want to assure you people that the beauty of where we are today is that we are a system that is watched and run by everybody. And people are looking at us in like, let's see what you are about to do. So in a very near future, you will be seeing us, immediately we get this money, you'll be seeing us running around. We're also expecting our GAF money, which is not very enough.
It's not a lot. Huh?
We're going to get the third and the fourth.
Time is up.
And see what we'll be able to do. But I can tell you, we are on top of the game.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.